What's up, beautiful souls? Thank you for tuning into my channel, the place to be the best version of yourself. If you don't know me, I'm Charlie. I have been working on self-help and all kinds of self-love techniques for nearly a decade. And so I share these tips, tools, and tricks to help you be the best version of yourself. And they have been tried and are true. And today's topic is near and dear to me. It's boundaries. And I can't take all the credit for this. If y'all watch me, y'all know that I love Mel Robbins, and she's the author of the 5-Second Rule. If you don't know what that is, definitely check out her book and check out her free mindset reset at her website, melrobbins.com/mindset reset. Anywho, she does these free talks every single day called coffee talks. And today's topic was boundaries. And this is something that's so current for me and my friends, my loved ones, that I've been sharing and I share with a lot of my clients. And it's something that's really impacted my life, and it's something that I kind of was, on the back burner. It was in my unconscious mind, my subconscious mind, and I kind of enacted them naturally and fell into them. But now I know the terms, and a lot of times we don't know the terms for the things that we enact in our lives. And so boundaries. Today her topic was boundaries, and it was not only with family, but she talked mainly about family, but I want to extend this out to loved ones, because I come from a huge family, and let me know if this resonates with y'all. I have a lot of family members that aren't necessarily family members, or friends of friends, cousins, friends, but they're not blood, but that doesn't matter because family's family. Now, that being said, a lot of times we feel the need to run to them I'm all for unconditional love, but a lot of times we have guilt into play or shame or things like that. And I don't know about y'all, but I grew up sort of Catholic, and so I feel like there's a special kind of guilt there called Catholic guilt. And so she shared a lot about how a lot of times we don't put up these boundaries, and so we have these people that are going through these things, and some of them might be toxic thoughts, toxic environments, and you just give and give and give, and then you find you get sucked into this time after time, and you just think to yourself, when is this gonna end? How do I stop this? How do I really help this person? And I love the analogy she used today. She used the analogy of a snow globe. Now, as you can see, I don't have a snow globe, but I have this little contraption, whatever. But she used the idea of a snow globe. Now, stay with me because I know this sounds weird. So she used the idea of a snow globe, and a lot of us don't. Boundaries, okay, that's another word, another psychology tool. What exactly does that mean? And she used the analogy of a snow globe, how this is like a force field, and how we have these people in our lives, family members, friends, and they can be going through these toxic thoughts, and they're just swirling, and they want you to come save them. And then you find that you're in the same mindset that, oh, well, all this and all this drama, and then it's hard already to carry yourself. It's even harder to have to carry people on your back, and it's solving their problems. And I find, let me know if this resonates with you, I find a lot of times, personally, that people have to want to help themselves. I think it's very similar to addiction, in that a lot of times it's isn't that the first step of the 12-step program in the AA is you have to realize you have a problem and you have to change it. And a lot of times I think we're so stuck, and she uses the term that these people are so shameful, and they guilt tripped you into bringing love to them and sucking them in. And she used the technique of just put up that force field and love them from afar. I loved one of the tools she used is that you can just simply love their things on Facebook and chime in and just give a little comment. And I love doing that because you can still love them from afar. You don't have to get sucked in. And I love that. I love that because a lot of us don't know that. A lot of us do feel guilty. If you're like me and you come from a big family, I'm the oldest, so I kind of felt an obligation to always be there and always be in charge. And it's now realizing that I have 2 businesses to run. I'm trying to make a name for myself, and I can't do that unless I pull away from things that I feel obligated to. So she uses the term putting up the force field and putting up the force field. And I think this is not only important to do for other people, but it's also important to do to yourself. One of the first things we learned in massage school is putting up our boundaries. And it's so amazing because on our state tests, and a lot of state tests in the US, it talks about transference of energy and transference of emotion. And this was the first validation of that. And that's when I really started believing that we are empaths and we can absorb this. We can absorb sometimes these toxic traits and these toxic emotions, and that we can cut that off. We can cut that cord and love from a distance, and at the very least, just give them space. When I was very early on in studying metaphysics at a certain school, one of my colleagues, she was an older lady, and her older husband was there with her, and they're retired and happy. And you know, he was very different than he had a very strong church background. And I asked her, because I was early on in my own relationship. This was nearly 6 years ago. And I said, how do I get my partner to join? And she said, honestly, I stopped asking and I just showed him. And that's what made him a believer. And this is so true. A lot of times we try to, let me know if this resonates with you. A lot of times we try to fit people in these molds, and I know I have been there so long where people try to fit me into this mold, whether it's, growing up gay, people have tried to fit me into these molds and things like that. And it's, at the end of the day, you have to be yourself, you have to do what's right for you, and you have to do what's true to you. And you do that by putting up a boundary and working on yourself. Not only is it one of the best things you can do for yourself, but I find you just attract people who are like-minded and who are working on the same things and aren't going through these turbulent times, these crazy, or I don't like the term crazy, these turbulent times, and also holding space for them. Hurt people, okay? And so we've all been through those times, and so we can still love them from afar, we can still be with them, but we don't have to be absorbed into that. We don't have to be guilt. So let's talk about guilt though. If y'all know Brene Brown, she's an amazing social worker, has I believe a PhD in social work. And she's from Texas. Shout out to Texas, because I'm in Fort Worth, Texas right now where I live. And she uses the term that a lot of us mistake guilt for shame. Let's say that again. We mistake guilt for shame. And this is something I'm working on because I grew up with a lot of shame. And a lot of us do, because for a lot of us, shame and guilt is part of love. It's how we kind of not con people, but how we make people love us and love each other. And this was such a big thing in my family. It's that you have to be there for everybody and, all of that. And while that's true, I think it's more important to love somebody unconditionally with no conditions. And one of the biggest things is loving somebody for who they are, but also seeing that they have to help themselves and how you can love them from afar and things like that. And so the coolest part is that we can set up these boundaries and that we can set up these things to really help people not only shame and guilt themselves, but also love themselves and love as a whole person. I think a lot of times when we're stuck in this turbulent times, we're not even loving ourselves, and a lot of times we need the attention, but we're also not putting in the work. It took me over almost nearly a decade to realize that I have to put in the work. I'm the one that has to hold myself accountable. And so values are one of the things in relationships that you can't compromise. You cannot compromise your values, and when you do that, this is where the shame comes. When you compromise your values, this is where the guilt, mistaken though, it's really shame. And Mel used the technique is that a lot of times we act outside of our morals, and then that's what causes us to be shameful. So anytime you do this, anytime you want to she used the example of maybe instead of meeting with her mom for a week, it should just be 2 days jam-packed of things, and being honest with yourself and having your boiling point. She used a scale, and I love using this scale with my clients for pain, but this also translates to a lot of things with 1 to 10. 1 being, okay, it's manageable, 10 being a visceral pain, and it's being unbearable. And if they're from 6 to 10, this really, you really need to look at this. And she uses the time limit of 6 months. You give them 6 months, you give them books, you give them talks, you give them therapy, you give them therapists, you know, to contact. And if it doesn't get better, that's kind of a sign that you should maybe take a step back. And a lot of times when you do this, this is when it might push them, or they might get all riled up and it might cause change, or sometimes, I mean, they don't care and sayonara. But either way, you have to watch out for yourself. You have to, at the end of the day, we only get one life. I was reading this article today and it said you have only so many breaths left. I know it gets a little daunting to think about, but at the same time, how do you want to spend those? Do you want to spend it enabling people and picking up after people and going through these turbulent times with them and out of control? Or do you want to be in your knowing? Do you want to be grounded in your being? I know I want the latter one. And I know a lot of times we feel shameful and we feel guilty when we do that. But take a step back. This is what they don't teach us. They don't teach us how to care for ourselves. They don't teach us that. And this is what I love so much, is that when you do this, it's priceless. When you do it, before you know it, people are going to start asking you, how do you do this? How can I help? How can you help me? And I love, love, love this. One of the studies she shares in the coffee talk today was that they did a study with these women with sugar and sugar-free and something like that. And anyways, the group with the shame with quitting or sugar and things like that, they ate twice as much sugar. And that translates into so many things. If you're like me, you've had a past of self-medicating with substances, with unnatural things that just throw things off balance. And it takes these traumatic events to wake you up. And a lot of times I think that's what it takes for a lot of other people. And as nurturers, as enablers, we want to, oh no, let me come save you. Let me be your superhero. It's time to cut that out. Because not only are you enabling and not helping those people, you're not helping yourself. At the end of the day, we have to walk the walk and talk the talk. But not only that, we have to walk the walk. And so I hope this, had some aha moments. I hope you had some aha moments and this sparked some lights in you. And I hope today you set some boundaries. I hope you put up that force field. Put up that force field. It's okay. It's okay to be, okay to have a bit of separation. You can send them love. You can send them love and light, and it'll be okay. Like she always says, Miss Legendary Mel Robbins, I love you all just because you are, and I hope somebody tells you, but if not, I believe in your ability to change. I believe in your ability to be the best version of yourself. As Yogi Bhajan says, he says, the father in the US of Kundalini medicine, he says, when you change yourself, you heal 7 generations back and 7 generations forward. Let's think about that. Right now, when you're putting in the work, you're not only changing yourself, you're changing your whole environment. It's said that 1 positive thought cancels out 1,000 negative. And that's so beautiful to think about, because we're putting in the work not only for us. It's not selfish. It's almost selfless. You have to be the best version of yourself so you can be the best help to anybody else. But you gotta help yourself first. So I love you. I believe in your ability to put up that force field, that boundary, and I believe in your ability to change. I love you all just because you are. Satnam.